Hello aspirants, welcome back to the daily news analysis of the Hindu. This is a free initiative brought to you by Transform IAS Academy. In this particular video session, we shall be looking into the articles which shall be extremely important for the civil service exam. So let us begin with our discussion for 8th of February 2019. So the first news item which talks on the MOD, that is the Ministry of Defence, protested against the PMO undermining Rafale negotiation. So we know that this Rafale issue has been from very long time, and it has been a continuous kind of an scamming to what the opposition party has been talking on to the ruling party. So this is somewhere again in advance, where we know this particular controversies of 7.87 billion euro Rafale deal is between India and France. So now the Defence Ministry has raised a very strong opposition, and that opposition is with respect to the parallel negotiation what was conducted by the PMO, that is the Prime Minister's office, with the French side. So they were not happy about it, and this has been very clear that these kinds of parallel discussions by the PMO had really weakened the negotiation between the Ministry of the Defence and the Indian negotiating team. So this is actually given a sort of a weakness, and this is what is being said out here. And this is also trying to bring a lot of attention to the then Defence Minister, who has been a part of 2015. So this particular advice of the PMO and any other officers who are not been a part of the Indian negotiating team, they have to get refrained from having any of the parallel meetings with the officers of the French government year after. So this has been there. So basically whatever the Rafale deal had happened, the Ministry of Defence is what it has to negotiate with the Indian team, but they were not happy as there was a parallel meeting which was being conducted by the PMO with the French government. So that is all about it, and you have the same discussion, but that's the overall issue out here. So you can just look on to this. And down here, the RBI cuts the rates to spur the growth. So this basically the RBI has now ensured that they want to cut up with the repo rate by 25 basis point. So it is now with 6.25% in a bid to revive the economic growth, as well as they wanted to know that it has been projecting the retail inflation to be remain below its target of 4% for the next 12 months. So this has been there, and this is for the first time since 2017 to what the repo rate is actually being lowered by 25 basis point. So by this we should we have to get in touch that earlierly it was to be called as in calibrated tightening. Now from the calibrated tightening, now the policy stance has moved on to neutral. So if you see the entire 2 months back or now, we used to call it to be as in calibrated tightening, but now they're coming back to the neutral stance. So this is there, which is basically indicating that the central bank would remain ready to move in any of their directions, whichever the incoming data would be there. And by this it should be understood that the banks would be able to lower their lending rates, and this is one of the most advantages and what the banking were looking out for all these days. So this is on that. And we know that the new RBI governor has been set up, that is Mr. Shaktikantan Das, and this is about it. And this person has now given an announcement that 25 basis point on the lending of the repo rate is being cut. So this is there, and this is a very repeated news to what we have been seeing it. And if you are a fresh comer, I request you all to year after continue with whatever the news has been there. And right here we have only 50% of the PAN linked to Aadhaar. So this is again a very old story to what we have already done it. So this particular deadline is with respect to nearing, but it's like only 2 months been left. But the deadline to link the permanent Aadhaar, that is the permanent account number and the Aadhaar, only a little more than half of the PAN holders have linked them. So this is what the Central Board of the Direct Taxes has to say. So major only 50% of it is being done, but to meet the deadline is just a 2 months. So they have not met as per what is the requirements. So this is about it. And this news is again a minute news. Bihar shelter home abuse case shifted to Delhi. So we know that this was under the CBI and a lot of issues pertaining to it. Now this particular case, Supreme Court asked Mr. Rageshwar Rao why the probe or officers was actually being transferred back to Delhi. So this is an issue regarding the same, is just a court proceedings to what they have listed out in this particular article. And this one, 5 IPS officers in Mamata protest faced the action. So we actually knew that to whatever the dharna was being done by the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee on support of her, there were 5 IPS officers who had actually been a part of it. That is in a sit-in process. So on limelight of this is what the center is asking the people who participated there, their medals, and they have to be debarred from whatever the empanelment has been done by the central deputation, a senior government official had been said it. And moreover, this is also stating that the Home Ministry has said that the state government has to take a required action against those IPS officers who are actually been violating the rules of All India Contact Rules. So this is about it. So this has to be taken into consideration. So it is highly important that the people have to follow with the All India Service Conduct Rules. The one who would not be, so there would be disciplinary actions which would be taken against them. So this is a development on the same issue. And this one, a plant trees at High Court tells the 2G's case accused. So there is a Delhi High Court which has directed the Swan Telecom promoter Shahid Usman Balwa and other 4 others accused in the 2G case, where they have to plant nearly 3,000 trees as a penalty for not filing their responses on the ED, that's Enforcement Director, and the CBI appeals against the acquittal in the 2G cases. So this is a different kind of an order to what it has been there. So this is about it. It's a good move where the environment would be a little better about it. So under page 5 we have this news, Kerala to get the country's second longest rail tunnel. So this is with respect to a connection port with respect to Vizinjam seaport to Balarampuram rail link. So this is almost like 10.7 kilometers long, and the rail through where it is going to get connected, as you can see this tunnel, it is almost with 9.02 kilometers. So this is one of the single line which can ply with a 9 rakes a day. So this is one, and this particular new rail link to what we have been talking right now, it will be completed by 2022, and this would turn to be the second longest rail tunnel in the country, and the acres of the land which has to be acquired for the same is 6.57 acres, and the estimated cost for the Kerala longest rail tunnel would be 1069 crores, and here this is also with respect to Thiruvananthapuram, which would be getting a link. And here the KRCL, this is with respect to the limited company where the experts in the tunnel construction, they have to submit with the DPR, that's a detailed project report. So that's nothing but the Konkan Railway Corporation Limited. So they have to give a detailed report with respect to how this particular area is to be getting constructed. So this has been there. So just that you have the news on that, we need to look onto it in detail. And moreover, you should also know that which is the first longest one, that is actually the Pirpanjal with 11.26 kilometers. So this is the longest rail tunnel, and this is with respect to Banihal and Ilar Shahabad. So this is a connecting link, but here if you can see this, this is a connecting link between Vizinjam seaport and the Balarampuram rail link. So this is there, and it also surpasses the Kanyakumari. And as discussed, the Konkan Railway Corporation Limited, they have to come up with a draft detailed project report where they have to submit it to the Vizinjam International Seaport Limited as well. So this is one of the special purpose company where it will be supervising all the seaport project to how it has to get executed. So based on that is what this particular entire program or the project has been set up, and that's it. So this is a cut copy paste of it to what you have to have it. And the third such issue, again you have to know, this comes to be as a 9.02, 11.26 is the Pirpanjal tunnel. There is another tunnel which is called as in Sangal Dhan, that is 7.2, and that is between the Katra and the Banihal section of Jammu and the Baramulla line. So there are 3 in this cutting itself in detail, so just go through with them, as this becomes extremely important news for your preliminary exam. Under page 6, NHRC seeks the report on witch hunt incidents. So this National Human Rights Commission has actually given a notice to the Odisha's Chief Secretary and the Director General of the Police, as there's a lot of murders and death related issues with respect to witch hunt incidents which has been there, and these people have not taken any of the action to prevent this witch hunt incidents. So on limelight of this is what the notice has been sent on, and there's a lot of people who have been died just because of it, and this is with respect to a clear violation of the human rights. And here they're also stating that this should also come up with any sort of a process which has to come under 13 of the protection of the human rights for any of the appearances of the concerned authority if the report was not submitted within the stipulated time frame to whatever the issue the notices has been given to the Chief Secretary and General DGP, that's a General Director General of Police. Within the stipulated time period, they have to give the report to what is happening back in their country. The time they don't have it, then they would be able to find out with those kinds of measures, and they have to be booked under the section 13 for any of the actions which has not been taken for the same. So this is extremely important, and this was one of the petitions to what has been filed by the person out there, where he pointed out that nearly 3 women and 1 elderly man was being asked to parade nakedly by the villagers just because being a suspect of the witchcraft. And there are almost like 500 people who have lost their life with respect to the witchcrafting issues to what been happening, just a suspicion of the practice of the witchcraft. So this was in the last 14 years, this is what the number of records of the death which is being undertaken. And laminate of that is what the NHRC has asked the report for the same, and they wanted to take the correct measures to what it has to be done. And this is that. And here we have the medical journals publisher under fire. So I request you all to go through with this, as this just an information to what has been there. So I just request you all to go through to who are the stakeholders who have been involved and what is this news is all. And here we have this again just for your general knowledge, the taxpayers, MP, MLAs can't avail farm income support. So this is with respect to the income tax assessees who have been sitting, or a former parliament or a state legislature people who have been holding. These people would be completely excluded from any of the scopes of the center schemes of the income support for the farmers. So they would not be able to come under the income support. So this is what has been there as per the union budget, which was been announced the last week. And even the people who are been having a constitutional post, such as the governors, the election commissioners, serving and retired officers and employees of the union government or the state government, even these people would have to ensure that to whatever they, including those in the public sector enterprises and autonomous institutions, they should be totally, and also class 4 and group D employees should be totally exempted from the exclusion of any farm income support. So this has been a very clear sort of an information to what is being coming from the farm income support, telling that these are the people which have to be excluded from the said schemes. So on page 13, there is the same repeated news to what we saw. The DAS to meet the bank CEOs to discuss passing on the rate cut to customers. So this basically the RBI, which is a governor, will now ensure that they have to meet up with the chief executives of the public sector banks to discuss about many things on the issues with respect to monetary policy transmission. So this is basically, as we know in the front page, they also lowered the interest rates for the first time in the 1.5 years of the time period. And here this is what where the banks were reluctant to reduce the interest rate whenever they have to have any sort of the details for the same. So this is with respect to, you can see here, in the month of October it was 6.25, 17 it became 6, wherein in June 18 it was 6.25, 6.5 continuously, and by February 2019 is what they have again reduced to 6.25%. So here they have to just keep in mind that whatever the fixing the rate of the interest rate is just a function of the bank, and here the interactions of the people who are being called as the CEO and MD of all the banks, where will be discussing about the issues for the same. So this with respect to, as we also noted, from calibrated tightening they have moved on to the neutral stance. So this meeting they are calling for, and once the meeting is being done, you get the detailed discussion and you have these people who have been a part of it and what is it. So that would not be something what the UPSC requires from a candidate. So you can skip this completely, as this is just a meeting to what they have to do. So once they have done to whatever the other discussions they have been, just it will be as a value addition for us. And that's it. And down here we have the debt MF may benefit from relaxed FPI norms. So there is a Reserve Bank of India where it has now relaxed the provisions that has actually barred the FPIs, the foreign portfolio investors, from having more than 20% exposure of the total corporate bond, which has been a portfolio towards a single corporate entity. So here whatever the path the RBI had given in the earlier past, now it has been given a relaxation and it has been looking for the same. So this relaxation comes for nearly for 10 months after the cap was first put in place in April last year. So this is to whatever they had given in the last year. On laminate of this is what the relaxation has been there, and this is a old news. If you understand the later news only, you will be able to figure out to what is this issue is all about. And moreover, this particular FPI investment which has been seen in a bond issue, this could actually not be more than 50% of the issues. So the capping of the single corporate exposure of the overseas investors at 20%. So here the provisions have actually where they wanted to intensify the FPIs, that's the foreign portfolio investors, to maintain a portfolios of the assets in India rather than making it to be as a complicated. Further, they wanted to make the market feedback indicates that the FPIs have been constrained from this particular stipulation. So this is a minute news, and the circulation has also been issued in the mid of February 2019. So most of them are feeling a bit relaxed about the same, and this is the same about it. And as I already told you all, this is the same continuation news to what was been earlier there. So if you understand the backstory is when you will understand what is this is there. And here we have the government forms a panel on the regional transport planes. So here the government has set up a committee for the development of the regional transport aircraft for the commercial use in the country. So this would be actually put before the parliament, and this is one of the part of the map being prepared by the government for having the domestic manufacturing of the aircraft. As we know that there is a lot of issues with respect to manufacturing of the domestic aircraft, either with respect to the one or the other issues. So this particular panel or a committee which would be developing or would be coming up with those kind of suggestions to how they would be able to develop the regional transport aircraft for the commercial use in the country. So currently you should know that the HAL is the only entity that actually produces with the aircraft and also the helicopters for the military and the non-military purposes. So this is that, and this particular panel would have to look on for the creation of the special purpose vehicle for the development of the regional transport aircraft. And that's it. So this is all about it, wherein the others all are just a repetitive part. So in the life column you didn't had any of those important except this one, where a new Mars rover named after Rosalind Franklin. So this is one of the British made rover, as you can see here. So this would actually get into the Mars next year, so that they would be able to find out and search on the signs of the life which was being made. And this was after the DNA pioneering Rosalind Franklin. He was actually a UK science minister. So he had been a person who had been actually helped in understanding the life of the earth and how and where it should be done. What is the namesake will do the same. So this is one of it, and this rover would be named after this Mr. Rosalind Franklin. So that is there. So this is basically on the Britain one. So that's it. By this we have come to an end of the video. So these were the important articles for the day. We hope this particular video would help you in your preparation. Thank you and have a very nice day.